I'd like to make a motion to open the April 9 Shade Tree Commission meeting.
Second,
All in favor?
I,
Aye. And so we have no applications, but you want to introduce yourself and
Sure. My name's Sean Gavin. I've lived here most of my life. And yeah, I've always heard about the Village Shade Tree Commission. Love trees, like the outdoors. And somewhat interested in getting involved in local government. So yeah,
nice.
uh,
Well, we are looking for someone, so I think it'd be great. I'm glad you came.
glad I can make it. Yeah, my work schedule has been conflicting for the last couple months.
Okay, so our meetings are second Wednesday of every month. Usually we have an application or two,
Okay.
and so under the village law,
I'm so sorry, I have to pause.
Virtue, what's? So does it have flaws? Is it hazardous?
As you mentioned, is it an imminent danger? Right.
and I think we've done a lot to, keep there are a lot of trees I drive around, and I remember people requested to have that tree taken down. And, we would talk to Dwight and he's like, no, all you have to do is prune it. And some of those trees are looking even better now, years later.
Right.
Or I think what happens a lot of times is someone is buying a house and they're moving here, and before they even live here, they're like, oh, I want to take all those trees down.
Right.
And we often say, no, you wait a little bit, come on back now and never come back. Because then they realize like, oh, I kind of like that tree there.
Sure.
Yeah.
So. But I think a lot of what we do is we get people to step back and think about, is it actually the right thing to take the tree down?
Sure.
And then we also plant trees every year. We have a budget from the village board. Roughly around, a few $1,000s a year.
Mhm.
And then we pick locations around, near the streets where we want to plant trees. And there's a lot of trees that, I see that we've planted that are now looking great.
That's awesome. Yeah. I've got some experience in that from working for Designs Collective up in Kingston.
Okay.
You might not be familiar.
And we're gonna be, and then every year at Arbor Day, we try to plant some trees. Because that's required. We're a Tree City USA, New Paltz is,
Oh,
I think for 30 years now.
what exactly does that mean? I've seen that at once around town. What does that mean?
It's
Well,
like
it
an
means
honor.
you've achieved a certain standard. You have
Okay.
concern about trees, you have a committee, you may have,
And I think budget money needs to be allocated to plant trees every year by the
Oh, wow.
municipality. And so, yeah, it's been,
I think you have to have a code that somehow mentions trees or protects trees.
It's like an honor to be a shade city. Shade tree,
Oh,
yeah.
that's cool. I mean, we definitely have a lot of trees. Makes sense. About how many trees do you guys plant every year, would you say?
so I think we probably plant 5 or 6 a year. On average.
Nice.
But then a lot of times when people are asking us to take down a tree, we will approve it contingent on their planting another tree.
Right.
Especially if the tree they want to take down is near the road, and then we also have a list of trees that we suggest. So, if there's power lines on one side, we don't suggest planting a big tall tree.
Right.
Versus if there's not power lines there, we try to suggest to plant a shade tree there, because that's gonna have a big long-term impact.
Right.
And so, that's on the webpage, and then, I just finished putting a list together. I had papers if everyone wants to see them.
I need copies.
Okay.
Do
So
you have them?
this,
Oh, I have it on.
I have
the
it.
phone.
okay.
Yeah.
So we've I think this was Dwight's idea to do this, which is now I'm glad we did, that now we're keeping track of, like, when we say, oh, we contingent on your cutting down this tree, you need to plant the tree. And now we have a list, and we're gonna keep track of it going forward, and then we have to go out and see if they actually planted the trees that they said they would. And then we will, if they didn't, we'll send them a reminder.
Hmm.
And say, remember you said you were gonna plant this tree, we'll try to get these trees planted. And that, that ends up being for the last 3 years, that's been 22 trees. So
That's good, that's.
we probably suggest as, between suggesting trees and planting trees, we probably plant 10 a year,
Oh, okay. Does the shade tree commission cover like the putting in of the tree, or is that you have a home on whoever's?
For the people who are, if they're taking it down, they do that.
I see,
But, for
okay.
the ones that we pick the locations of, usually the Department of Public Works helps us out with the digging
Okay, cool, awesome.
and often the planting, or we hire someone sometimes.
The trees we take, we wanna put them on public spaces, so. Then it's on us and or any help we get from the Department of Public Works.
Right.
Trees that are replacement for property owners who've asked for a permit, that's on them,
Okay,
so.
makes sense. Much wasn't clear.
And we got some trees from it was the Cornell Cooperative Extension, I think. They were doing an experiment on these.
Not from the cooperative extension,
Oh,
from
from-
Nina
Oh,
Basak,
oh,
who is a
from-
professor
Yeah.
at Cornell.
Cornell itself.
It's
Okay.
their horticultural program there.
Yeah.
They
So,
were
and we
doing
got
research
quite
on
a
the
few.
oaks.
Yeah, we
Really
have 5
good.
trees from them.
And they're big now,
They're doing well.
they're
One of
looking,
them is right out there.
yeah,
So they,
Hybrid monsters.
yeah.
they were doing hybrid
They're hybrids.
oaks
Oh, wow.
to try to, breed trees that are more resilient to being near roads for like salt and
Right.
runoff and things like
I
that.
think Oakville too, right? It's
Yeah.
just to be.
I have
resistant
the
to
list of
Oakville.
them all,
Yeah.
different ones together. And then they planted them around, and every year we go out and take pictures of them and send them back to them and see how they're doing. They're doing really well.
So they get field data and Tompkins trees love them.
We were happy. That was a good thing.
Yeah, I kind of wish we'd gotten more.
Why don't we ask?
I don't know if I.
Ask if they have any other ones that they want.
She's retired and that program's in other people's hands. I don't know if they've continued with that.
Hmm.
So that American Elm, there's a few that breeds elms by the millions and they distribute them, but I don't know that they have field-sized trees. I think most of them, you've probably seen that, but they're mostly smaller trees. It might be kind of fun to try a couple elms.
And if somebody has contact information, I'll give them a call.
It's like the American Elm Association or something,
American Elm Society,
something like that.
because, I did research into the chestnut,
Yeah, there's a whole thing
the
with.
Chestnut Society, and
New York State chapter, because that's the one that's the prime mover at this point.
I think, and
And they
because-
They have trees to give away.
so I will definitely call them.
They're not finished, right? It's not,
I saw one of their nurseries up in, Maine. I think it's in, no, yeah, it's in Maine, coastal Maine, they have a big nursery. that's on
American
Kingston.
Chestnut
And they do
Society.
have some good sized trees there. But I don't know, like, what, if you have to buy those or. like,
well, they have a ways to go before they have a completely disease resistant chestnut,
Yeah,
but they're working on it.
well, you saw that almost we have at Woodland Pond, we haven't lost any more since last time we looked, but I suspect that we probably will lose some of those, because they're all the same, they're all knitted together.
I know there's a quote, disease resistant elm right there in front of the library.
Yeah.
Everybody know that?
Yeah, I've seen that element. It's looking really good.
Yeah, it's growing really well. They were a little bit overwhelmed by the growth. It took a lot of pruning to get it. I mean, it grew and conflict with the walkway, conflict with the light stand, conflict with the entrance.
Hmm.
But now it's elevated more, so it will develop its crown well above, but again, it will have to be pruned before it goes on the roof.
There's a big American chestnut in Kingston at Betterby. I think that's an American chestnut. Or if it's a hybrid, it has very American characteristics. But it's old, it's big diameter tree, big old stately tree.
Not a chestnut oak.
So
I'm trying to
Do you
get,
have anything you want to ask us about?
No, just listening, but I asked all the questions I have so far and just skimming this list, this is really cool.
So why don't we, before we forget, we'll make a motion to approve the minutes. If anyone has any comments on the minutes from the last meeting, so we can cross them off.
right, please?
All in favor?
Mhm.
Aye. And then, maybe, I called, UDIG New York already and we set it up. They're gonna start, marking things out. It'll be done by the 14th. So they can start digging after that. And then you said you're gonna look at the trees.
I'm gonna look at a tree on Friday, see what Man's had. I asked somebody who works there and they said they thought they had sugar maples, so.
So we're planting a tree on for Arbor Day. You're welcome to come if you have the,
Sure, what day is that?
Usually
April-
Friday.
April 25th,
Yeah.
at 2:45. We're doing it at the middle school.
Cool.
Where the district office used to be. So they put that.
Oh, yeah,
Building down.
yeah, that big little.
And so now there's a space there. We're gonna plant one tree kind of to kind of balance it out
I
and.
love that. You
And
guys-
the students are gonna help us. So it's gonna be after school, they're gonna come out and we're gonna teach them about planting trees and
Excellent, what kind of tree were you thinking?
they asked for a sugar maple.
Love that, okay.
So, and the trees that we plant and the trees that we request that people plant are usually like what, 2.5 inches in diameter,
Mm.
right around 2.5 feet. They call it breast height. Because those, we used to, before Dwight gave us a lot of advice, when I first joined, we would plant lots of little trees.
Mm.
And they had a much higher mortality rate.
Right.
And so now we plant fewer trees, but bigger trees, and they do much better.
Right, more mature, but possibly easier to establish, right?
Yes. And so that's, you know,
Well, more sturdy, so they're not run over, damaged, bent over.
Easier to see.
That's one thing. And second, upright, taller, so deer and wildlife don't have as big an impact as on a small one. Plus, the bigger ones that we've chosen are shade trees, and that's really our purpose. Whereas originally, a lot of people here were planting ornamental trees,
Right,
meaning small, colorful, nice looking trees, but not always suitable for between the sidewalk and the curb.
like those Cleveland pears?
Well, more like they're flowering crabs on North Oakwood, South Oakwood.
Oh, them, yeah.
They're very small.
yeah, so the long-term plan is that, you know, we want there to be more shade in 20 and 30 years, 40 years. So you can keep walking on the streets and,
Yeah, without dying from heat stroke or whatever.
Yeah.
Right, shade is part of it, canopy is
Yeah.
the rest, so that your growth goes up and over.
Right.
And you have no conflict then with
Yeah.
traffic, cars parking,
Right,
fire hydrants, this kind of thing.
right, hitting that level where it's not obstructing view, but also, but is still
Yes.
providing all the benefits, of having a tree around. Makes
yeah,
sense.
so like there's lots of benefits, like
Yeah.
people like to look at them. They make people happier than they realize. But then they provide that shade for the cooling and then, the roots increase the amount of water that goes into the ground. People
Right.
think like, oh, trees are bad, they're gonna suck up all the water, but actually add water.
Oh,
Instead of the water just running off really quickly into the road and down on the drains, they make the soil more permeable.
Yeah.
And so it actually retains water.
They'll also cast shade to help keep the soil temperature lower.
Yeah,
to-
and then the
Right.
the evaporation cools things down, so there's multiple benefits and.
Yeah.
We need to start doing these things now, and there's maps, I don't, I've shared with you guys, but I think they call it iTree. And you can look at the quality of different urban areas,
Mm.
and we're doing really well
That's good,
here in New Paltz. So.
excellent.
And so we, so, but I was wondering, I saw in here the follow-up, the status of working with Davie Resources Group, an environmental consulting company to apply for the community reforestation grant.
It was
Is
an
that-
email I saw a while back.
Is that
and I
already
know
closed?
reached out, they reached out to you guys, there might be nothing about it, nothing
okay.
happening. I had just put this on here the last couple of agendas,
Okay,
so we can.
yeah,
remove
I
it.
remember they reached out to us and
They did.
I asked them like what it was gonna cost,
Yes,
and they didn't really respond.
no, I didn't see any response.
But I
after
can't,
that.
we can't make a decision if we don't have at least an estimate of what it's gonna cost us
yeah.
to work with them.
I read through their materials.
Yeah.
It's not a program we should be interested in at all. Why? Because they deny any reforestation. It's not shade tree planting. You cannot take their trees and put them. You can't use their money or their trees as street trees or park trees.
Oh,
Oh,
Reforestation, land that's been bulldozed or
no, yeah, we don't have any,
Developed.
we don't have any control over that.
exactly, so. It's just, it was. Not suitable for us.
Okay, good. I feel then we didn't miss anything.
We didn't miss anything.
Good.
But if there's another thing coming out of Cornell, I'll be sure you know about it if there
yeah. that'd
are
be great.
research trees that are available.
Yeah, that'd be great. So it's, I don't know if anyone wants to, talk about, do anyone have any ideas for other places to plant this spring or?
I did write down a few, because actually I've been looking at this area for a long time. And it's 168 Main Street, which is, it's.
I know where that is, and it's in last month's minutes. It's one of the properties
Oh.
that circumvented,
Replanting a tree?
circumvented the permit process, went directly to the building inspector.
Oh,
Mhm.
and they cut down a tree.
And they removed the one tree that was right there on the sidewalk. But also when I went to look at it, I noticed 4 or 5 other big stumps, one of which was within 20 feet and 3 or 4 toward the backyard.
Yeah, well, I've been noticing.
That is a property owner and their it's student housing, I'm pretty certain. It has the appearance of rental units.
Do you know who is?
I don't know who it is.
Okay, so
But
this-
also the house, just further up 172, could be the same owner. But it's the same situation,
Oh, right.
devoid of trees.
172 Main?
Yeah. 172 didn't ask for any permits that I know of. But 168 could be the same owner.
Because if
He
they,
asked for the permit, then he found out, oh, if I just talk to building inspector, he can get it done and have no obligations. That's why I was insistent last week that we be included, not that we can deny or anything, just so that we're aware, so we can say, okay, you got to take the tree down, we understand.
Yeah.
Let's replace it.
So, maybe when you're at the nursery, you can see what other trees they have and what the
Yeah.
prices are, and then we can, we'll decide how many trees we have, and we could maybe.
Well, I think it's incumbent upon the property owner.
No, yeah, I agree, for some of.
Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, other locations too, I'd like to plant, if we could pick some locations,
Sure.
we can maybe plant, 2 or 3 other trees this spring. Or,
because, I also had 211 Main Street. I should have written down what the house looks like, but also on that stretch of Main Street, as you're going out of town on the right side. A lot of trees have been cut down. There's another house that's for sale there right now, and I think they took down the trees that were in front of that house.
yeah, I think that area really needs more plantings,
Yeah.
because it seems like there's.
It's
missing-
right on the sidewalk. They need some shade right there. So I'll try to contact these people. So, maybe just look at them, you guys, 168 Main, 211, and then you said 172.
Yeah, it's the house next door, further up the hill, same side, right
Yeah,
next
so
door.
do you guys?
And they're both identical in that, no trees,
Yeah,
right along the sidewalk. The front is pretty spare and basically student housing.
yeah, but it's not like it's going to impact their building or anything, because the tree would be away from the building. It'll enhance the property.
Right, and now he knows where his septic line or sewer line is, and he can plant 10 feet to the north or 10 feet to the,
This is 168.
So do you guys wanna,
172's got looks like a maple and it's got some kind of crown. thing.
What's the date on that?
That's a good question.
Do you guys want to try to focus on planting a
big
bunch of
spruce
trees all in
that's
that
coming
same area?
They're done.
That would be great, because that would be really nice.
Yeah,
I mean, if we had a couple of, like the way now those trees that were planted, on Main Street in front of the middle school, they're all the same type there.
Hmm.
And it looks really nice when they all
But-
come out and they're,
I guess I'm also wondering if we, I mean, if we're ordering some trees later on this spring, right, to get delivered. You know, maybe we could ask the owners of these, will deliver the tree for free if you pay for it as part of our delivery.
Mhm.
And maybe that will
Wow.
help incentivize them to be part of it. And so we could have them all delivered in the same area. I think it would be really nice. If we
I'm
could,
pretty sure that he volunteered that he would be willing to plant trees if he could remove this one.
I think if we could plant, you know, it would be really nice if we could plant a bunch of trees there right now.
yeah,
Maybe 4 or 5 trees all at the same time.
yeah, it'd be great.
That'd be great.
I will get pricing on, some of the ones that are on our list of what they have,
Yeah, that'd be great. And I think if you look at the power lines around, which side they're on that side or,
I believe they're on the opposite side.
yeah, exactly. I think they are too.
That's,
And so I think that would be, we could plant some really nice shade trees right there. And it needs, that area really needs it. That's like
Yeah.
one of the largest
Shelley?
areas.
Another one that circumvented us and went directly to the building inspector is the real estate office across the street.
What, is that
One-
Wyden County?
Not Weidenkeller, further down,
Okay,
next, I think it's 147, but we used to be Scott Real Estate.
Mhm.
You know what it's called now?
no, but a friend of mine used to
No,
work
Stevens
there.
is further up.
Yeah, no, they didn't, yeah.
Anyway, there used to be 2 maples in front, and then it was down to 1, and then this one broke off a limb. It had some serious flaws, and so they took it down, which, okay, but why not replace?
yeah,
And when they go directly to the building inspector, there's no pressure or no request for them to replace.
yeah,
And, they have the 2 flowering crabs in front of the building. But it looked great with the maple tree in front.
yeah. Well,
Closer to
I'll
the
do
curb.
my best.
Yeah, but I also wonder if it, people will be more likely to jump on board when a whole bunch of trees are getting planted at the same time.
Yeah.
Because I think it'd look
You could say,
nicer.
well, your neighbor is, we're gonna plant a couple of trees right there. It would just continue the,
Yeah.
the look of.
I think that's worth it. So we'll try to, pick a bunch of spots there and plant this, we want to try to find a bunch of locations there. I think it's a good idea.
I did want to ask you that, the people came and the guy that had just bought the property, I can't remember what road it was on, but this was a couple of months ago. The guy came, he just relocated up here and he wants to cut down all the trees, and I gave him this speech about walking around the neighborhood and driving around New Falls. And then we talked later about people who've never owned trees in their life. They come from the city, they have no idea the benefit of these big trees, and he just wanted to cut down all these big trees. Now, I can't remember what our thing was. I think we gave them permission with a replacement tree.
Okay, it would be on this list if we did.
Yeah, it was recently, so
I don't have the 2025 trees in here
yeah,
yet.
I'm
'cause the-
trying, I don't,
those
that
minutes-
wasn't 2025 though.
Because the minutes are on up there
Yeah,
yet.
it was 2024, but I'll look it up and see if I
So
can.
like, I also went, if people want, I went through and cut and pasted the actual. What our resolution was, so we
Oh,
can like
good.
read through these and
Yeah,
then try to come up with a standard, standard resolution based on all the ones that we've done for the last 3 years.
yeah, well, I thought we were working on that a little.
Yeah, yeah, but now we have all the text, so
Yeah.
we can see what we said, so,
Great,
that's all I have really.
that's good. This is a lot of work. Thank you.
Maybe something to do with that. Yeah, and if online, you can click on these links and they all link back to the village's website for, like, you can actually read the application and read the minutes.
Oh,
Wow.
So,
good job, Neil.
well, I could not have done it if, I wasn't given, someone got me to third base. So,
Ah.
Nicole did.
Good
All
job.
I did was finish.
Well, I think it's a good thing to have. I would just like to know whatever happened with that, because the guy seemed like he definitely was wavering when I was giving him the, go drive around some of these neighborhoods. I mean, they have huge trees that are hundreds of years old.
And I can make this text bigger too, I just wanted to print it out, but I think that now, one of the things that we should do is, I'm gonna kind of highlight some of these, and as I like walk or ride my bike or drive around town, I'm gonna like say, did they plant a tree there or not? And then we can keep updating this list. I can put this on Google Sheets too, if people want an online version of it.
I actually printed out a couple of.
And share it all, if people can edit it and, but then I think it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, well, then you can send in a letter, or be happy with emails, we can send them a letter, maybe as part of their water bill or something, we can put a standard letter together. I mean, and that's the other reason I put these, the links in here, because when we write the letter, we can actually put a link into the actual minutes and their application. Or,
Good,
so, that's,
because the thing is, you have to kind of follow up, because if nobody ever does anything about the fact that people just go cutting down trees without asking, and there are trees that should not have been cut down,
Right,
then they just think they don't have to do it, that we don't do anything.
right.
So we've been trying to be a little more conscientious
Yeah.
about the follow-up.
I also think, some of it is like, oh, yeah, I keep meaning to plant that tree, and, it's like, you just like, you get overwhelmed with other stuff, so
Yeah.
it's helpful to be reminded, like, oh, remember you said you're gonna plant that, and some of them said 6 months, some said it was a year, and so I think.
I was gonna ask if there was like a time limit imposed or like suggested, or if it was left open to the homeowner's discretion.
Usually we say like within a year or something, but
Okay.
it depends on like when, because you're only supposed to plant trees in like early spring and late fall, right?
It's generally,
Yeah.
April, May. September, October,
Right, so,
November's good.
so if people are asking us to cut down a tree in June, we
Yeah.
give them a year usually,
right,
so they can plant in the fall or the spring, stuff like that, so. But yeah, usually I don't think we've ever gone more than a year, because that gives them 2 opportunities.
right, that makes sense.
Okay. So I guess our next thing is really Arbor Day. Coming up soon,
Yeah, no, it's coming up really fast. I was like, oh,
time is flying away.
Oh, I just wanted to point out that sugar maple is not really the best choice for that site because it's so intolerant to salt. And I'm sure they'll be laying lots of salt down on the sidewalk and the parking area.
Yeah, we talked about it too, is they're not. I mean, I've seen them get damaged by heat too, and then it's like a hot, dry spot. Don't love that, so I think that when I was at the that Relief conference a number of years ago, the arborists and the researchers spoke saying like sugar maples, not south of Albany.
they're not gonna
Like, they
make, they're
don't
not gonna make
recommend
it for
them as
long
a street tree.
south of Albany.
Okay, but
Because of the
this
change
is,
in temperatures.
they're
Yeah.
talking
You're
about
talking-
urban settings, sidewalks, roadways, and this could qualify for that.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't give up on sugar maple in Ulster County somewhere in parks and in backyards and this and that. Just away from the salt.
Yeah.
Even still, the young ones, they grow very well and if it gets properly watered, a little bit of salt is not gonna.
We might not be able to source it, but I mean, they said they had some, but they might be monsters, they might be like
Yeah.
4-inch caliper.
Yeah, no.
Beasts, which they know they have a big pile of those.
I mean, the school asked, and I
The
said.
same ones they've had since 2.5, 3. Well, see,
Exactly.
once they go over 2.5, it's a very specialty market and it's costly and you need some machinery to move them.
Yeah.
2.5 is the limit,
So we might find that it's not even an option.
Yeah, I just said we would look into it.
Yeah.
But I said we couldn't promise anything because they're harder to find and
Yeah,
so, but I would look, but.
But lots of red maples.
red maple would be much better for that site, I don't disagree, but we'll see what they have. And I don't know, do we have a strong opinion? Do we wanna try to just make that decision without.
I think you can, when you're there, you can make, you know enough to make the right decision if, you know.
Availability might decide it, but I
Size
don't
and
I don't
availability.
disagree at all with what you're saying, Wade. I think, I had that same thought when I said sugar maples.
Sugar maple's my favorite, it's top of but only in the right setting or situation.
But I think when you see the tree, you can decide on the size and the availability and.
But we also have to remember that we're gonna try to plant it.
Exactly.
It's like you and me probably.
Yeah,
Actually, I don't even know what day is that.
Friday, 2:45, April 25th.
Well, you know, they'll put it on the truck, your truck, and with a couple of planks, you can roll it onto the planks from the back of the truck. Two people can guide it down the planks next to the hole and roll it in. If the hole is dug to the proper specs, properly, it's heavy, it's hard to manage,
Yeah.
but you never have to pick it up.
Right.
And it rolls.
Yeah, no, I got you. If it,
Yeah,
I
and
mean-
once we know the size, you know, I want to be able to reach
what I
out.
was gonna shoot for is having it delivered that week.
Yeah.
Well watered. They will actually, you know, they'll bring it with the truck, cause I don't think we were gonna have Blue do it. I think we're gonna have them deliver it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was gonna try to have them deliver it in the beginning of the week. If they have a Monday or Tuesday that they're available, that's 3 days for the tree to sit there. Should be.
Why even have it sit that long?
Because getting them to deliver it, like they only have windows, you know, they.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, ask them about that,
Because
because if they can guarantee delivery,
They can.
well, how about Wednesday?
I don't think there's any real harm in it being there a day extra. Like I said, if it's well watered when it goes down, and, you know, if we have a hot stretch of days,
Mhm.
those days, we can go put some
I can go
water on
put
it.
some more in it.
Yeah, get a couple 5-gallon pails, it wouldn't be it. But it's gonna be a big ball for a lab tree, not a.
I'm there most mornings dropping my daughter off, so I can just walk over, give it some water, so. Or on my way to work, I can, or home, I can do it, so.
I live close by there too, I can stop by and do that.
And so if you want to join, I think you write a letter of interest
Okay,
and you say why you want to join. And the village board has to approve it. And their next meeting is, the second or third Wednesdays?
Next week.
It's gonna be the 23rd, April 23rd. It's the second and fourth Wednesdays of the month.
alright. Okay, I'll get on that.
And I don't know if you can email it to any of us and we can send it to Nicole if you don't have her
Yeah.
email address.
Are the email addresses on the Shade Tree Commission's website?
They are, yes.
Okay, great.
And can't wait, that'd be great.
This all sounds really interesting,
Yeah, it's
and I agree with the mission 100%.
Well, we're glad to have you.
yeah, no, I mean, I think it's a good thing to do. And I'm glad, I think people, hopefully they appreciate what we do.
I feel happy about what we do. So,
Yeah, I mean, you also then get to see trees that you planted or over time and you'd be like, remember that one, we kind of that, some of them were huge,
yeah,
you know, so that's nice.
I always notice the one that's by Water Street Market.
Yeah.
It seems to be doing pretty well.
Yeah, we planted that 2 years ago,
Which tree is that?
It's a
right along
Is that
on
a
the rail
Stewart or
trail.
what is it?
Yeah, it's a Stewart.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that was our Arbor Day tree 2 years ago. And then last year, we planted a bunch at Moriella Pool and then some of the playground too.
So during the truth.
Legion Truth Park, and we've planted a bunch of the trees in the park up there. And I think people in 20 years, people are really gonna appreciate having those trees in that Peace Park right there, which is gonna make it a lot cooler, so.
I'm curious to know if any action's been taken against that party across the college, Plattekill Avenue. It has an address on the side street, not south of Oakwood, but another one. He cut down all the trees, of which 1 or 2 possibly were within 20 feet. And others that were
We can
more
ask,
than 20.
we can ask the code officer.
And Christine went there and then she got a little bit intimidated, I think. by the homeowner,
Mhm.
and so nothing really happened.
Which address is this?
I don't have an address.
Well, it would probably be on
Enough
here.
streets?
I don't remember the address, I remember the instance, I remember talking to Christina.
Yeah.
That she.
Well, for your screen on Google Maps, if you can pull up Plattekill Avenue, you
Plattekill,
can
yeah.
just run up Plattekill Avenue and you'll find it.
Is that the one where they really stopped random now?
Yeah, they ground the stumps quickly.
They had all the evidence gone.
Mm.
Well, it's not completely gone, but
Well, and
it's
we
gonna be
could,
very hard.
we could also ask for an update for the one that we were asked to look into.
Center Street?
On
No,
the,
that's not
that
Center
street, the street right here across the
Oh,
street
okay.
here. We were asked to look at that one. They just cut the trees down. Last
Yeah, I
month.
remember that. I think now
Yeah.
where that was.
We weren't too happy about that.
You might have to ask Christine.
I mean, so that's one of the other things we do because we all. You know, we notice the trees a lot, so we'll often point out that someone didn't get a permit. Because we know who gets permits. And, you know, I'll be walking or driving around town and I'm like, they shouldn't be cutting that tree down. And then we'll contact the code officer and then they'll contact the owners and say, you need to file the permit to do that. Well, and my internet's not working, so I can't, look up the address right now.
Okay, it takes too long for me to get a proper screen on it.
Here it is.
Yeah. That is a very good tool to have. They don't show any trees
So
though.
that was Lookout,
Yeah.
the one
No,
a few weeks ago.
yeah,
That they cut some trees down illegally, one within 20 feet of the road.
But that's,
So
you're
often-
not on this or?
No, it's 25, it's not
Oh,
on.
yeah.
But I think the one that you were.
this is Plattekill,
Right here.
Hmm.
I think it's this one.
which is the college. Yeah, okay, yeah. And these are the streets, this is,
Yeah, that is
that's what we need to know.
Ridge Street.
Yeah, that's what it is. That property, corner property on Ridge and Plattekill.
Ridge and Plattekill.
Well, There's 12 Ridge. So we could ask about
Oh,
12 Ridge.
Okay.
And I think the other one. I can look it up, but I think the other one was.
Oh, yeah, picture shows the tail. Still some, at least in that Google Maps picture, there's still some, wood chips where they stump ground.
Are you seeing the more recent one, the one that's on Lookout?
I trying to look up the address for that one, but.
Oh, I can look through the emails, it's
Yeah.
okay.
But we, just so if we could get an update from the code officer, were they told that they illegally cut down trees and what was their response?
Right, okay.
Yeah, that's all I have. I'll look through this list and start trying to find trees and.
Okay, we have a good thing to go on here.
Okay.
Anyone have anything else or motion to adjourn?
Yeah,
Sure.
I'll make a motion to
All in
adjourn.
favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
All right, I'm gonna. I don't know, if I probably can't get to all of these, no, I guess.